So we have quite an interesting episode lined up. I'm sorry that I said interesting. Actually, don't get any expectations. As we put out last episode, we didn't like to set expectations because usually you want to work from the ground up. Have no expectations, and every single time it will exceed it. But we do have an interesting layout or format for this episode. So episode 9 will consist of, well, firstly my half an hour, and then Luke gets his half an hour. And we decided it would be a good idea to maybe go into, or rather down the rabbit hole of how this podcast came to be. But for that, we have to go to the root of where our car passion started. So this is my dad. His name is Jaco. He's also very Afrikaans. I must warn you. So
much more than Martin is, yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately. So today I would like to, as I said, just dive a bit deeper into why I have a passion for cars, because I could be sitting here and chatting about food. We could be chatting about lifestyle. We could be chatting about collecting stamps, but we are not. We are chatting about cars. So, of course, this came from him. Fortunately, unfortunately for you. And also with Luke, he'll be chatting to his dad, going a bit into his past and what is present now, and just how they also share this similar passion. So I'm not really here to talk about myself. I'm here to hear what my dad has to say, ask some questions that have been unanswered over the past few years. But it doesn't, it's really not that hectic as it sounds. But yeah, as I said, Jaco, welcome. Jaco, welcome. It's my dad. I mean, why am I calling him on the name? Anyway, very weird. So you don't have to introduce yourself. I introduced you sort of, but just say what you do, how your passion for cars came to be, a bit of your history with cars, your dad's history with cars, just about that kind of your life, and why cars make part of your past.
No, thank you for the opportunity to be on your podcast. I think it's really a privilege for me. I think my passion for cars started also with my dad when he started purchasing the car magazine. For me, was absolutely can't wait for the next month magazine to come out so that you can go through it, you can read it. And well, it basically took me, I would say, not longer than a week, and it was read through. And I know cars because of that, and from that it grew to a passion for me. And
was this like a very young age, like primary school, high school? What are we talking about?
I think it was more high school when that really started. And at that point, it was a passion for me to work in the motor industry. So it was actually very funny. So I started, I'm an accountant. I was, I'm accountant by profession, of by trade.
Studied accounting.
Studied accounting, and through the post, not through Marty's or so, but
the equivalent of online studies, basically what I'm doing today.
Yeah, basically what you're doing today. And it's really from there, worked at a place in Malmesbury, and my wife and I, we were on holiday, and I saw the ad for a motor dealership looking for an accountant. And you don't have computers on your holidays and stuff, and actually I've handwritten a CV while we're on holiday and sent it in, and got the call that I had to come for an interview, and it was with Mercedes-Benz in Cape Town, with Orbit Motors for that stage, and that was absolutely a dream come true when they phoned me and said, I've got the job.
Yeah.
So I worked for Mercedes-Benz for quite a while, and now I think it's about 12 years that I worked with him. And then got the opportunity to go on my own, purchased a petrol station, and here we are, still running a petrol station and going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was quite interesting.
So it went from cars to what powers the cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. In a sense.
In a sense, basically.
Yeah. So while you worked at Mercedes, of course, you weren't accountant through and through. Like you had an accounting post for quite some while, but then later on had other job descriptions, had other roles to play also in that circle.
Yeah, I was accountant for the bulk of my time with Mercedes. I was an accountant, and with a couple of branches, because they had quite a few branches in the Western Cape at that stage, and worked for that, and then I had the opportunity to become dealer principal for a couple of years, which I also grabbed with both hands and enjoyed that side of things as well. And after that, I said call it a day and move on with life.
Yeah, and so you also move on from one role to another, but still the passion remains.
Yeah, the passion still remains. I still enjoy reading through cars magazines, and obviously say ooh and ah when we see beautiful cars driving past, and obviously just like you, when you hear the sound of the car,
yeah, of course,
it is also always a thrill to see beautiful cars and enjoy that.
So I remember also when I was very young, so there were certain phases, some high and low phases in terms of my passion for cars. So like when I was very young, I was very passionate. Like I remember the photo of the Megane where I don't know if it was a test drive, but
it was a Laguna.
Yes, Reynolds Laguna. And I was sitting on your lap with the steering wheel, and I'm like, there it started. But then also from there, I had quite a big passion for cars, and then at some point later primary school, early high school, dipped a bit. Like I wasn't, as on it as I usually was. Like I could spit facts. I could throw you some, description of cars that's driving past, like name car brands and models and what matches with what. I like had the knowledge in that. But then later on, as I said, early primary school, early high school, there was a phase where I just grew a bit blank. I don't know. The passion faded a bit. My goals, aspirations, what I was focused on changed. Anyway, anytime near 14, 15, 16 is a weird period for any guy in his life. But then from there, I remember you asking me the one day, or I think we were driving somewhere and a car drove past, and I couldn't really name what it was. It was quite an interesting car, but usually I could have. And you were like, what's happened? Like, where's your passion now? And I couldn't even, I might be lying. I don't know. It might have been something totally different. But I do remember you asking me, where's your passion now? And just from there, I don't know, I probably felt challenged. I was like, what happened? Like, where's my passion now? And from there, I just, fired on. So, entered the YouTube world of cars. I think the one YouTube video that got me into cars was a video of Shmi 150. So he doesn't like Shmi, of course. So if you haven't watched his videos, you probably have watched his videos. He's a massive car YouTuber with a lot of cars. Good guy, really a good guy. But I remember one of his videos that I watched. It was a car he pre-ordered. I think it was the AMG GTR. And as he pre-ordered in like 2016, 2 years before the release at Goodwood Festival Speed. And from there, as the saying goes, you just go down the rabbit hole. One thing led to another. And I just really got so interested in the cars again, got the passion again. Well, later on, I'm here starting a podcast. But in terms of knowledge of cars, we differ not so much, but there is a reasonable margin in terms of what we like and what we know about. Like you know much more about the everyday car because you read up and about it a lot more.
I just wanted to say that you are obviously looking at the much more high-end
like your exotics, your luxuries, your performance.
Which I always like and so on, but much more into the everyday type of car because that's the guy I am. The everyday type of guy. So,
if you want advice about what would be a good daily, or is this thing good in terms of reliability, or how's the fuel economy of this car, or just something special about your everyday car, like he's the guy to go to. So usually when friends ask me like, what first car should I buy, like I'm just thumb sucking because I don't focus on that as much as you do. I mean, you work in the car industry, you sold C200s, Mitsubishi Colts. These are your everyday cars. These are not Lamborghini V12s or Aventadors or your Porsches and such. So maybe seen as two sides of the spectrum, but still a similar passion. But tell me about your history in terms of cars. Like, what are the favorite cars you've driven? Like, what drives do you remember? What cars do you remember the most, the best? Some driving experiences you've had. Well, let's take specifically in that time you worked in the motoring industry, because, well, I remember one day you brought a quite interesting car, but I was too young to appreciate it. Flip. But yeah, please elaborate on that.
That car that we brought home was a smart, what is the name? But it was a smart, it was
Coupe, no,
it was the cabriolet.
There was that, but I'm talking about the Mercedes, the one you said, like, go look at the number at the back. And I was reading the number plate instead of the model number.
You're reading the number plate. Yeah, I think the ones that I brought home was a C55 at that stage.
Which was like 2005, like early.
In that region.
Yeah.
Obviously, V8, loved the sound of that car.
What a privilege.
And when obviously put your foot down and push your back into the seat.
A lot of torque.
So really, really fun to drive car that. I loved, obviously that's the more fancy side of things, but I really loved when I had the opportunity to drive E-classes. That I really enjoyed, and the ML specifically. Which
is not a GLE, but
at that stage it was
versions.
the ML. So that is a vehicle that I really, really enjoyed driving. Cars that I did not have the privilege of driving, but I could sit next to somebody else that just drive the car, was a SL65 AMG.
V12, 6-liter V12.
Yeah.
Did it have the bi-turbo?
Yeah, it was the bi-turbo, yeah. And that was a customer's car, but the dealer principal at that stage had the
opportunity,
and he said that the owner asked him to now and again just take the car for a drive, just to keep everything going. And wow, I must say, that was really, really an interesting one, and feeling that power when he put down his foot.
Yeah.
And actually you can feel how the tires was spinning. So much power came through.
Yeah, didn't you say like every single gear change until fifth, there was like wheel spin?
I can feel there was wheel spin on that car.
Yeah.
That was something else.
Yeah.
I think that is... But just the opportunity to drive Mercedes-Benz, it was really a privilege.
Yeah, the different models.
Yeah, different models, and was at the stage that every week you had a different car to drive, and that was fun.
Yeah,
it was really fun, and now I'm stuck to having a car for life, basically.
Yeah. So his car that he has now is a very plain Suzuki Alto. Now, our family gives it a lot of grief and a lot of stick. But we got to appreciate that car because, of course, he has a petrol station and you can't necessarily take your C-Class to the petrol station. That would just not fit.
No,
you want something you can not use and abuse. It's more just like something you don't get too emotional about when there's a scratch or...
Yeah, it's definitely not the car to get emotional about. It's a practical day-to-day car. It's reliable.
Yeah.
And it's fit for the purpose that we need it for. So,
but of course, there's a dream car you always talk about, which, one day when things get change a bit and your situation changes and you're in your midlife crisis, then that's the car you would buy.
I thought about it this afternoon. What car will that be right now?
It's actually a very... you always talk about that.
The car that I love is a Golf GTI.
Okay, I was not expecting that one. I was expecting the 2007 RS4.
Oh, yes, the RS4.
Yeah.
But the ones, the predecessor for that, the RS2.
Oh, the wagon.
The wagon.
Yes,
that is a one to
That is
have.
aspirational.
Yeah, that is a fun, that is a car that I just want in my garage, and that is that RS2. It's a lovely looking vehicle.
Started a great legacy.
Yeah, it started a great legacy for Audi, and having a RS4, that would be fun.
That would be fun.
Definitely be fun, yeah.
And then new car you would buy now. Like, money is not an option.
I think I would actually... Money's not the option. If money's not an option, I will go for a E-Class.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was expecting a Porsche Panamera.
Oh, well, yeah. A lovely looking car, that Panamera, eh?
Yeah, and that Panamera, the new one especially.
Yeah.
That is quite a stunner.
Yeah, no, I must admit I'm talking a lot about that cars, but
Yeah.
sometimes you just need a blank when you speak about these things.
Yeah, but of course you can see his brain is much more practical. Like, of course he has driven these cars and he knows in what stage of life he is. Doesn't necessarily need a very powerful car. E-Class is good enough, still powerful enough. But
Still powerful enough,
you have a much more practical worldview, which is sometimes good because it grounds someone like me. Just like, calm down. But I wanted also you to chat about your dad's cars and some of the cars he had, and some interesting, because your olden day cars, your classic cars, which that was what 1970s, 1980s.
Yeah.
I mean, we chatted about this in the previous episode a bit more, but now usually the cars you'd have then, even though it's just a plain everyday car, it's still something special now, because all your cars today are basically the same.
Yeah.
In a way. So yeah, maybe touch on some of the cars he had, something that was interesting.
Cars that I remember basically was a Valiant, and then we had a big Chef Bucky. Basically, if in terms of size, compare it to the Ford F-150. That was the vehicles that basically that I can remember from long ago. And then we had for years, we had a Chevrolet 3.8 car. A story about the Chef Bucky that I know when we were very young at that point, and we're living in Ceres. And in Ceres there's a low water bridge, and obviously when there's big rains, water is flowing over the bridge. And my dad decided the day when we got to the bridge, and he said, "No, it's fine, we can go through." And basically in the middle, the bucket just died.
Oh no.
And water is flowing, and he really struggled to get that bucket to start again.
To go, yeah.
It was really,
No, it's quite a nerve-wracking.
It was quite a nerve-wracking one. That is a story about that Chef Bucky that I know. And then, interesting one with the Chevrolet car is we towed a big caravan with that. And we had also a frightening experience with that vehicle basically coming over a hill. And on the other side, it was quite a windy day, and the wind started to push the caravan, and it pushed the car forward.
Yeah.
But also basically just lifting the car's nose a little bit. That there's no grip on for you to have on the steering wheel.
There's no steering, yeah.
So that was now an interesting
That was
ride.
also quite an interesting one.
Yeah, and me, I know I was sitting in front next to my dad and looking to this side, and you say, "Oh yes, the caravan next to me." Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and it was a real thrill, but
very scary.
Yeah, it was scary, but my dad managed to get everything under control, and that is things that I really remember. And obviously my dad is a Volkswagen fan. After that, he just had basically Jettas up until now. He's still driving
the
Jettas.
Jetta, yeah. Takes very good care of his cars.
Yeah, he's absolutely a fanatic about clean and polishing his cars. So currently has got a 2004 Jetta TDI.
Still drives like a dream.
In a mint condition, keeping it that way. So
that actually reminds me. We had a Golf 4 GTI.
Yes.
We had a Golf 4 GTI. Tell a bit more about that. Why did you buy that car? Because of course you're going to have a family, and although it's a 4-seat, it is a GTI. But why did you buy that car? How was that car to drive? Because I was way too young to, drive it. But now looking back, I'm like, would have been nice.
I still want to say that at that stage we had the Golf GTI was working for Mercedes-Benz.
Okay.
And so it's more your mom's car that
she
used on a daily basis. That's a car that was traded in, and it was never meant to retail. It was meant to go to the trade. And I just saw the car and I just knew this is the car that I want. Okay, I had to give your mom basically two choices of cars. So I had that, and I think I had the Opel Astra, the other one. But we both decided on the Golf. And I know, till this day, so that was, despite driving Mercedes-Benz and enjoying it very much, but I really enjoyed driving that Golf.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a thrill.
Yeah.
Can't say that enough, but unfortunately the kilometers got too high in the car and really got expensive to
reliability issues, or not really?
Not really. It was just getting expensive to maintain.
To maintain, yeah.
But yeah, that was
quite an enjoyable car.
Really enjoyable car to drive.
You probably had some good drives over like the Duiskloof Pass or
Yes, at that stage we had a business. We were staying in Paul, and I had sometimes to go through to Worcester because we had a business on that side as well.
Yeah.
And just take that car. Never drove through the tunnel, obviously not. Take it over the mountain because you can throw it around there.
Yeah.
And your mom didn't like that.
Sitting passenger over any pass isn't a pleasant experience.
Yeah, so when we had the opportunity and it was just me, I just let go and drove like hell over that mountain, just enjoying it. That was really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so really missing that car, but or someday, that's why I also say...
The RS2, it's coming.
It's coming. Golf GTI. But you just hit the button on the RS4s and those.
I feel like cars like the Golf GTI, the Porsche 911, these are like in the range they fall, and the cars they compete with, this is the benchmark of, hard hatches especially. Even though it's much more powerful, you compare it to the Golf GTI. You compare it to how it feels, how it drives. Of course, going with any generation Golf GTI, you can't go wrong.
Well, it's interesting. It actually speak volumes if with the Golf 8 that Volkswagen is going to launch, that the first car of the model that they're bringing out first is the Golf GTI.
Yeah.
Above,
just shows the focus.
Just the focus on how popular the Golf GTI is.
Yeah.
And it's still the benchmark for a lot of cars too.
Because of course the Golf R wasn't a thing in your first generation.
No, definitely not.
But your Golf GTI, that was always the race.
I think there was on the Golf 4 there was a R, but at a much later stage.
The Golf 4 had a R32 and the Golf 5 had a R32. But I don't know if they had a R and a R32.
No. I think
I know they had a R32, the VR6 engine. The 4 and the 5.
No, that VR6. The VR6 was in the Golf 3. In the Golf, they never had on the Golf 4. They never had a V6 engine in it. I think.
I think they did, but maybe it didn't come to South Africa.
Yeah, I know that on the Jetta they had one, the V5. I think.
Yeah. So GTI, the pinnacle.
Definitely, yeah.
But okay, so. On the topic of hot hatches, we might as well go to our PT Cruiser segment. So you guys know how it works, but I would like your opinion in this one. So hot hatches will always be a favorite. Everyone likes driving hot hatches. But some hot hatches have quite a obnoxious design, quite a wild design. And sometimes for the older folk, not necessarily saying you are one of the older folk, but you're older than the youngsters, may see it as a bit it, too wild, too flashy, and I'd rather keep it subtle, something like a GTI. But the car for today is a Civic Type R, especially the new one.
When you started talking about flashy and that, I knew it was going to be Civic. Yeah.
So I want to get your opinion on this because I love the Civic Type R and how it looks, and I wouldn't mind be driving a Civic Type R. And if I'm right, it also holds the Nürburgring lap record for a front-wheel drive car. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Megane Trophy R beat it. Not sure. Don't really care. But the Civic Type R is such a capable car. Really, really good. Awesome manual driver's car. Has a great engine. They really delivered on that one. But of course, the design is wild. Like 3 exhaust tips, massive wing. It's just a crazy design, big front splitter and such. So how do you feel about the Civic Type R?
I think it, let's call it maybe an age-appropriate car that for the older folk, maybe not for them.
But just in terms of like looks and stuff?
It's wild.
Yeah.
Definitely wild. I mean, massive wing.
Still a very good driver's car.
I think Honda was always good in that perspective, specifically with their performance models. But you always, like the newer cars obviously don't have that problem, but the previous Type R's, you really had to rev the car to get something out of it. But
VTEC sits at the top of the red range.
Yeah, but with the turbos now, it's not necessarily that, but it is. It's wild. I think it's a beautiful car, but will I drive it myself? No.
Really?
Yeah.
So if I need the keys,
okay. Look, let's.
will you buy one for yourself?
I will not. Yeah, maybe let's call it this. I would like to drive one just to feel how it drives.
Yeah.
But to
not
park it in my garage, no.
Okay.
Definitely not.
So I would definitely rate it cool. What did you say? Cool, dead average, PT Cruiser.
Cool.
Cool, also cool.
Yeah.
But just not for you.
Not for me, no.
Okay, there you have it. The jury is out. So, Luke, you're up.
Thank you very much, Martin, for part 2, not episode 2, part 2 of this podcast. Speaking to the people that brought us into this world. For those of you who do not know, this is my dad, Roland Gisler.
Hi, everyone.
You introduce yourself a bit and tell us what you do, if you don't mind.
Well, I'm reminded of the saying that often gets used in South Africa. Remember that those that brought you into this world can take you out as well.
That is true. I need to watch my words
and
be
so
careful what I say.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, that's just a joke. For those of you that don't know me, it's a favorite hobby that I have to make little jokes.
To the irritation of all the other family members.
Really badly with a lot of people, but that's just the way it is. So anyway, I'm Roland and I'm Luke's father, and Luke has said that he wants to ask me a couple of questions here. So
just the few
I'm
things.
all nervous.
Although I'm a bit of a car nerd, do you mind telling us in what aspect of business you are in?
I am in the exact. Actually, my business is converging with cars eventually. Although I dislike it immensely, and that is, I'm in IT. I run a small IT consulting firm, and we provide some hosting services to companies as well. So, essentially, that's what we're doing. We don't fix PCs for people.
No, we're not Microsoft Support Center or something. Sorry, I can't say Microsoft. That's sacrilege.
Yeah.
That's not gonna. That's not gonna work. And the question that I have for you, just to start this off, is the question I think that all sons would ask their father is, "What am I like as a son?" You can say anything, it's fine. It'll only be on record.
Difficult. You see, when we adopted you and we had our first look at you, we realized you won't fit anywhere else. So it was clear that we had to keep you. So that's what we did. And it turned out pretty good, yeah.
It's a very expensive adoption.
Since I caught you without a doctor being present, it was a pretty unique
home
experience.
Birth, guys. Home birth.
Having you as a son. Unfortunately, I can't say that I love you more than the others. I love all my kids
Fair enough.
very, very much. But I like you as a son.
Thank you. It's a good thing to hear. You're average dad, so it's fine. I'm just joking.
This is where taking out of the world part comes in.
Yeah, if this is the last episode you see of me, then you know what happened. That's fine. Yeah, but in terms of, you've got an idea of what we do with this whole podcast and everything. Would you say you regard yourself as a car enthusiast in the sense that you like cars, classic, old, new, whatever, and you enjoy driving and everything like that? Would you say that's something that you can classify yourself as?
I'll answer those in two segments. I like driving very much. To such an extent that when I was a young man, I thought, I'm going to get myself a truck. One of those
but
nice.
You had a truck license, right? Coming from the army.
Yeah, but that was just a SAML truck license. I never converted it to a civilian license.
Yes. Okay.
And then I decided I'm gonna get myself a truck, and I'm gonna drive the truck all over South Africa, transporting things with a nice sleeper cab at the back and all that. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be the best.
Well, the
thing.
apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because that's something I also thought about doing after school as well. So just get a truck and start driving. So I don't know if it's
very exciting prospect. I also dreamt of doing the roof of Africa and various other things, off-road things, and I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, as I got older, it's not that I dislike cars, but it's becoming less and less important. So it's a matter of, I need a tool for the job, and having a nice tool for the job is better than having a lousy tool for the job.
Yeah, definitely, of course.
So I think my tools have started getting better as we progress. So yeah, I like cars. I won't call myself a petrolhead like two of my sons are.
So you won't necessarily, when you retire, use half of your savings to build yourself a private garage with, let's say, 5-6 cars in that you take on Sunday drives?
Probably not. No, probably not. Unfortunately, sorry.
No, it's fine. Not at all. Don't worry, it's fine. Just, hits me in the heart, but that's okay. It's okay. So I think a good place to start is first cars, and probably the person that brought you into the world as well, your dad. And my grandfather, and I think just start from there and tell us a bit about where the cars and everything started, and get to the point where we are now and what you're driving today. And I'll chip in every now and again if I think I need to say something. Okay.
Since my parents are from Germany and I was born in Germany too, obviously my father bought his first car that he bought was a German car. Surprise! Although I have a
Who would have guessed?
Although I have a Frenchy name, my parents originally sort of came from the Dutch segment of Europe. I won't go into the finer details, but some of them own ships. Some of them own ships, and they use these ships to relieve others of their cargo and so on.
Exactly.
Which was quite interesting, and I only learned that recently. So I guess there's a streak of that in all of us still. We don't like governments very much, and we don't like too many rules and regulations. That's why I like South Africa much more than Germany. And
any Germans watching, I'm sorry, it's fine, but
it's just one of those things. It works for some, and it doesn't work for others.
Fair enough.
So anyway, my dad was an engineer. He actually worked in my uncle's factory, and they had a contract to manufacture certain parts for Mercedes. Since I'm of German,
you gotta get it right, guys. If you ever wondered about
Mercedes,
about the pronunciation of German automobiles, there you go. We will sort that out today and address that.
And and the very first car that he bought, surprise, we discussed this earlier, was not a Ponton. It was the antithesis of a Ponton. It was a BMW Isetta. Little car with a door on the front that opened up.
Oh,
it was called,
yes,
in German it was called the Käseglocke, which means it's like a cheese bell that you put over the cheese, and you open it up like that. And he had a little one of those, and that was the first car I bought.
Wow. Okay.
And then when he got a family, which happened pretty soon, he realized that it didn't suit these purposes, so he bought a nice big Opel Kapitein.
The equivalent to that in the modern day would probably be something like a smart car or something for that. Is it something in that class 2-seater, small little? For those you don't know, you will see pictures. Don't worry.
Well, if you put one of these little delivery, little tuk-tuk
Oh yeah, the little Vespa.
Yeah, if you put that into reverse, you almost have a BMW.
Basically have the same thing, like a Reliant Robin, just
but
the
I
wrong
think
way
it
around.
just went better than one of those.
It probably did. I mean, it was BMW after all.
So anyway, that was the Opel Kapitein was a fantastic car. Opel Kapitein, right? Get
Got
that
it?
right?
Yes, Kapitein.
Not
Kapitein, Kapitein.
he took that.
Giving him some of his own medicine. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, so when he decided to immigrate to South Africa, which is another story, but they immigrated to South Africa as a missionary, and he took his car along. So that came on a boat trip to Africa from Italy, and to get from Germany to Italy, they drove the car through Austria and then down to Italy, right to the bottom of Italy, and loaded it onto a ship and went through the Suez Canal, one of the last ships, if not the last ship that was allowed to pass through the Suez Canal, all the way down the east coast of Africa to South Africa. The very, very first port where they stopped was Durban in South Africa. And the weather was bad probably from the equator to Durban, that my dad at that stage decided he was going to get off the boat. He was so seasick that he couldn't stand it anymore. And then he decided he's going to get the car off the boat and drive it down to Cape Town. Fortunately, he didn't.
Okay.
So he lived to tell the tale. This was 1965. So anyway, the weather was fine from Durban to Cape Town then. And so he landed with his Opel Kapitein in Cape Town, and we used that car. We lived in Paarl then, and we used that car all over for weekend drives, which was very, very popular at the time. You go for a weekend drive, you go towards Ceres or Franschhoek or wherever else, and just go for a drive for 2-3 hours, and maybe get out a little bit, stretch your legs, and get in again, and then drive back home again. It was not uncommon. And obviously that car, the seats could fold flat completely. The front seats would go flat completely. So you'd have enough space for mum to lie down with a child next to her, and then 2 kids in the back and one in the back window. And everybody was sleeping while daddy was driving.
I mean,
late at night when we go home.
That's how you do it.
So that was quite a nice car. And then eventually he sold that after, actually I should tell you about the one trip that we did to Namibia, at that stage Southwest Africa, to IIS. And we started early in the morning, and because he always serviced his own cars, everything was in good condition, and anything was wrong, then he would go to a friend's workshop and they'd sort it out. And so anyway, the car was all ready, everything was set, and we got loaded with everything we needed for the holidays. Nice big car, there we go. And we got to Van Reinsdorp, I think, and the oil light came on.
Big oof.
So my dad slowed down really, really slowly, and he very sort of first gear, very, very slowly made it to a farm. And the farmer gave him some oil, and he checked, and there's something that broke. What it was, I don't know, but that was the nature of cars at that stage. They were not very reliable. So it just broke down, and when it breaks down, you have to deal with it. You have all your spanners, your tools, everything in the back of the car, take it out. But I mean, you couldn't redo the engine, which was necessary at the time. So then after he'd put some oil in, at least the car was running, but he decided, you know what, going to Namibia now, with a car in that state, it might just break down again, go back home. So we got out, and he had a second car, which he had bought at some stage, which was a Ford Cortina, little 1300 or 1500. I can't remember. Was it no, there was a 1300 actually. And no, mistake. It was a 1500.
It was a 1500, okay. There we go.
1500 Cortina, the little box-shaped Cortina. And offloaded everything, squeezed as much as we could into the boot, piled everybody into the little Cortina.
And then you went again.
And we went on holiday. So a car breakdown didn't stop us from going on holiday. We went to IIS, it was great. And we came back. And then my dad took the car to a friend in Wellington and stripped the engine, rebuilt everything, put it back together again. And the Opel was running again. So that was it.
And it just kept on going.
And then eventually he sold it and to someone. Can't remember the exact details, but I do know that about 3-4 months later, he was driving to Cape Town one morning, and there was his car lying in a ditch. So they didn't.
Well, that's a short and swift ending to a wonderful episode.
Yeah, it was terrible. But anyway, that's it. He sold the car. So what can you say? To the guy that bought the car. That's it. So anyway, that Cortina, when I was in matric, my dad said, "You can have this car." I said, "Yes, I've got a car." So it was parked in front of the house, and I didn't have my license at the time yet, but it was pretty close. So I wasn't allowed to drive it, to school at least. And then during the matric exam, my parents called the school and wanted to speak to me. And the headmaster came and called me and said, "Your parents want to know where did you take the car to school?" I said, "No, I didn't." "Well, the car's not there anymore."
Oh, no.
So before I even had the car, it was stolen. And the only track that we ever had on the car was that we got 2 traffic fines from the city of Cape Town in the next few months. And then
but I mean, by that time, it's completely lost in the network of Cape Town streets and stuff.
This was 1979.
Okay.
So yeah, that was it. The car was gone.
And that was
so
end of an era, in a sense.
I didn't have cars after that until I was at varsity, and I used to hike, which was quite the thing to do at the time. So you hiked to Stellenbosch.
when you were still able to hike, it was a very easy way to move around.
I hiked to Pretoria to see a girlfriend of mine there, and I hiked back in one weekend.
I mean, how do you even do that? Just to get... It baffles my mind in that sense of driving. I mean, it's not like it's flipping far. It's really, really far to go up to Pretoria, and then you do that in a weekend while you're still visiting and come back basically in a day.
Well, I asked my mum to drop me off with a little car that we got at the time from friends, which was, if I can say that, sorry, I'll use an American phrase. It was one of the funnest cars we had. It was a little Opel Kadett 1000cc station wagon.
Nice.
And it was like a bicycle. You just sort of get on it and then you drive it. So you get in it.
You get in it and you drive it.
But it was great fun because at varsity, we could pile 9 guys into it and go for lunch.
Wow.
At the place where the lady that made us lunch, we went there for lunch on a daily basis. And we either had to take our bicycles, and when it was raining, we'd all 9 guys in the house would pile in there and we'd go down. Yeah.
And that was it.
That's it. Yeah.
I think that's probably where I can say a passion for wagons started. It's from the experiences my dad had with a wagon. So, I mean, Martin and I, we both feel that wagons are the ultimate thing to go for. From ages on to modern wagons and stuff, it's the winners. So that might have been where it started.
Well, it was great fun, and I really don't remember what happened to the car, but it wasn't mine, it was my parents. And then my dad at that stage had bought a Kombi, which had been in an accident and had the top fixed and so on, and the thing was all straight again. And then he put a 1700 variant VW engine into it. And it went okay, but it was a little bit underpowered. But essentially, that was my vehicle that I took to Stellenbosch to varsity. And then on weekends, when we wanted to go home, I just loaded a whole bunch of friends in. They all paid $20. And that's $200 if I had 10 guys, which would be $30 for the fuel to Worcester and back, and $160-$70 for the week for food and all sorts of other things, which was great.
I mean, if that isn't winning at life, then what do you do?
So, there are lots of stories I can tell you about that Bruet, which as it was called, the Bruet. It was known amongst everybody that would go to Worcester on the weekends. It's a Ray Bruet.
For those of you that don't understand, it's literally, and if you haven't picked it up, it's just saying it's the bread van kind of vibe.
Yeah. So is the bread going to Worcester this weekend or not? And the bread is going.
Shipment of bread coming in back from Stellenbosch.
So that was the bread, and then one day, what I was going to say about hiking, actually, my mum dropped me off in this little Opel. Oh my. There it is. Don't worry.
Okay, there we go. Sorry.
So she dropped me in that little Opel station wagon and Opel Kadett at the road at 9:00 that morning. And then she parked the car next to the road there while I was hiking, so that it would look as if I'm not some hobo standing on the road. So I'm standing here with my varsity top. I think it said US something, I can't remember what.
Stellenbosch, whatever.
Yeah. And so I was hiking, and as she was standing, she hadn't even got into the car yet. A car stopped, and someone said, "Oh, do you want a lift?" Yeah, sure. Got in. So they took me to somewhere in the Free State. I think just past Bloemfontein, Welkom, somewhere there, which was quite a long...
Between nothing and nowhere.
And then from there, they went south to Natal.
Okay.
And so I stood there, and I walked the distance from the on-ramp to the off-ramp of a bridge.
Mm.
And in that section, a guy with a sports Mercedes 280S or 300-something sports car stopped, and he said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Pretoria." He says, "I'm going to Joburg. Hop in." So I hopped in, and he barreled. Absolutely. I mean, flat out. And we just, the countryside flashed past. The only experience I ever had with that was in a chef. Martin, you have to edit this out. I just have to think what it is. An El Camino bakkie.
Ah, okay.
And so I took that out in the Durance on the back road to see how fast it would go. And that thing went over 200 easily. And then you get tunnel vision.
Yeah, I mean, then
in the vineyards, you get tunnel vision, and the things, you just see the road in front of you.
Yeah, that's it. And then the rest is just blur on your peripheral vision.
It was the first time I'd gone as fast in a car as I did in that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so this guy in the Mercedes, he just went flat out. And he took me to the M5 in Joburg, where the dual carriage with a
yes, okay.
Dual carriage is the one on the top goes south and the other one goes north there. Dropped me off right on the freeway there. So a traffic cop stopped and he said to me, "What am I doing here?" I said, "I'm hiking to Pretoria." And he said, "But you're not allowed to be here." I said, "Oh," like I'm playing really dumb. I said, "Well, I hiked from Worcester now, and I'm on my way to Pretoria, and this guy dropped me here." Get in. So I got in, and he took me off across the M5 to the north of Joburg, and he dropped me on the off ramp. He took me off the M5, and he said, "Okay, stand here and get a lift." So I got a lift pretty soon, and 9 o'clock that evening, I was at the station in Pretoria, which was exactly 12 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, these days we don't drive 12 hours to Pretoria. You drive 14 hours or 16 hours to Pretoria, depending on how many speed traps and things you have on the road.
Exactly.
So that was amazing. And then coming back, it was a similar story. So yeah, you could hike.
All for a girlfriend, guys. Commitment. Gents, if you're listening, commitment. So this is a good example.
And it wasn't even the best girlfriend, because Lucia was much better than... Yeah,
exactly, yes.
So... anyway, that was hiking. So one day I was hiking back from varsity, and it started raining. And it was one of those weekends that I didn't have the car, the bread, and I was just really sick and tired of this. So I'd walked from Paarl to the Tuiskloof start of the pass, where there used to be a Shell garage there. And as I got to the Shell garage, I was praying, and I said, "Lord, this is it. I'm sick and tired of this now. I need a car now.
Yeah.
Show me where I can find a car." So I started asking around, and then someone across the road said, "Oh, I know someone, don't know someone." And before long, I bought a VW Passat, the older shape, but sort of like it was actually a fastback, the one with the hatchback.
Yeah, the hatchback. It looks like a big city Golf in a sense. It's a little bit bulkier.
Yeah. But it was much lower down the back. So anyway, that was the car that I then bought, and I drove that for quite a while. And then after I started working at Roland Bank in Paarl, I took that to the army and took my buddies back home with it, and again used it as a taxi to fund the fuel.
Fund the fuel and the food for the next week.
Yeah, and I earned a decent salary in the army.
In the army, yes,
so
okay.
that paid for it, but it was still nice to have extra money for going back from Kimberley to
It's always good
Worcester.
to have extra money, always.
From Kimberley to Worcester. And then in 1985, when I started working in December, I got hit by a BMW coming from the front. I was on the Toyskloof on my way home. A drunk driver hit me, and I went off the side of the road, and 20 meters down below, my car landed between two rocks and broke in half, front and back like this, and the seats tore out, and I was in bad shape. Fortunately, a very good Samaritan arrived on the scene and walked down, a woman, doctor, walked down, picked me out of the car, carried me up the mountain, and so on. And I survived, not because of the car, but because of the great person that came to save me. And then after that, after recovering, I came home, and shortly after that, I bought myself a decent car, a BMW 518i exec. Which I got from my brother's in-laws. It was his company car, and when they come to the end of the
lease
period,
on the company,
he sold it to me, and he sold it to me with a tank full of fuel.
Yes,
which was great.
There's any salesman listening now for cars and stuff, this is the way you sell a car. You fill up the tank.
Fill up the tank. And anyway, so he sold me the car, and I think I paid about 3,000 Rand for the car.
Yes.
It's really great.
I mean, you can't even buy a set of tires for that money these days.
So, and that BMW carried us far and served us well. But it was involved in an accident also, again in the Toyskloof. Someone hit me from behind, and when they repaired the car, they didn't fix the fuel tanks.
Do you think by that time it was a sign that you shouldn't drive over the mountain, but through the mountain?
The thing is, the through the mountain was being constructed.
Oh yes, at the time I remember. Okay, so you had to go over the mountain.
Yeah, you only had a choice to go over the mountain or you don't go.
Two car accidents, one from the back and one from the front. I mean,
this is many years apart, but still, no, it wasn't that many years apart, but it was a while. Anyway, so. The guy that hit me drove a BMW, and I decided next time we're going to play snooker.
We're going to see who's the better one.
Who bounces the furthest.
Yeah.
So I, unfortunately, the BMW's fuel injection got rust because of got perforated because of the water in the tank, which I didn't know about. And so systematically you learn these lessons, and then we did a little carburetor conversion, and that worked fine up to a point. And eventually, when everything just was too old and everything was starting to fall apart, and we decided, okay, sell it. And I sold it for more than I bought it. So don't ever let anybody tell you that BMWs don't keep their value. I think I got about 5,000.
Martin, I hope you're listening.
So I paid 3,000 and I got 5,000 for it. That's
great
about
stuff. I mean, that's proper.
But you just got to keep it long enough.
You just have to keep it until you know.
And you're going to buy it secondhand.
I mean, there's a ton of BMWs and people are constantly selling and buying them in South Africa, but I think it's become kind of a cult for tuning and for modifying in South Africa, because you'll always find at some other drift race, it's a 3 Series and a 5 Series that someone has converted. So if they can find, let's say, a shell like that, if the engine isn't that proper anymore, it's fine, because they've probably got 3 others and they just need a good body to slap this in. So well done for making a profit on your BMW, Dad.
On the second-hand one.
On the second-hand BMW,
don't buy them new now. If you buy them new, then you...
Yeah, no, you can't. No, let's not do that.
But yeah, anyway, so I promised myself I'm not going to do the Martin, but now I do it.
It's been caught out. It's in the system now.
Yeah, it's just it's a terrible...
It's a South African thing.
Yeah. A great South African thing, actually.
Great South African thing.
So I got the BMW and we sold that, and then I bought my first new car. Brand spanking new out of the box, and it was a great buy, and it was the best value for money, and it served us so well. And it wasn't it the all famous Toyota Corolla 1300. And the only modification that we did on that is, after many years, I replaced the 4-speed gearbox with a 5-speed gearbox, which was a nice improvement. But that car we used when we had our shop in Worcester. One day, shortly after I bought it, we drove it up to Op die Berg.
Oh, yes,
past
Ceres, yeah.
Bokkerveld.
Yeah.
So we drove it up there, and when I came down the Jaco Pass, going around the corners, the wheels would go. So So I went back to Toyota Oudensburg in Worcester, and I said, guys, there's something wrong with the car. It's making funny noises. And they said to me, what were you doing? I said, no, I was doing this and I was doing that. And he says, and you were driving down the mountain quite fast. I said, yeah, okay. I needed to get back to Worcester. And he says, just got too warm. And everything expands a bit, and you go around the corners, and you can hear the brakes and things start
shuddering,
scratching, and whatever else. And he says, so he said to me, I'll tell you what, if you drive that car and it breaks without making an accident, I'll give you another one. I'll give you my word for it.
He'll give you a brand new Corolla, basically.
He said to me, if you break it, obviously if you not
even like run it off the road or don't be stupid about it.
If you just drive it the way you're driving it and it breaks, I'll give you another one. So I said, okay, I'm going to try, see if I can get another one.
Yeah, never got another one.
It could go about 180 if you keep it on the straight. If you just keep it going, eventually,
it does the shudders into
so we know
oblivion.
that it could go that
just before tunnel vision.
No, it's not that close yet. You're going to go over 200. But it depends. If the road is slightly uphill, it goes 150 or 160.
Exactly.
But it was a fun car to have. Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, I think that's one of the biggest icons in South Africa.
It was very reliable, and the most amazing thing about it, you could never fill it up, because as soon as you put another thing in, it just stretches a little bit. And you push something more in, and it stretches a little bit. So you could always get everything in. You just push a little bit, and then it
expands.
And it was amazing. And we joked about it, but we often tried. You just push more in, boom, and then once you've got it all in, and you have the boot about that far open, and you just lean on it, and it closes. Great. Okay, there we go.
And there you go. Yeah. And then after the Corolla, what was the next one in the system?
In between, we had a Hyundai Accent, and you called that
yes, I remember. No, that was the Elantra.
Was it Elantra?
Was it Accent? I can't remember. It was
Elantra is the bigger one.
Yeah, I think it's the one that, I don't know. Anyway, but I remember that.
It was a silver Hyundai, and
it had a spoiler.
It had a spoiler at the back, and it was
it was the first time that I saw a car. As I said, it's a sports car.
Yeah, it's a sports car.
I remember that. I was young.
So we had
leave
that
me
for
alone.
a year or so, and then we bought the Toronto, which was a great buy as well.
I mean, that car now has.
We took it to Namibia.
500,000 kilometers on the clock or something.
And it had
an
few engine rebuilds and things because of stupid things like the designers never thought about putting in a water level sensor. So
thanks, Nissan. Appreciate it.
So twice.
The car's gone without water.
Car's gone without water, and you don't know it. You're driving along. There's nothing showing. There's no gauge indicating anything, and the pipe is just gone.
And then suddenly
the car just stops. Smoke comes out of the engine. Oil spurts out of the dipstick.
Yeah, that was a fun experience as well. That's a story for another episode about car reliability, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. So anyway, but the Toronto is still with us, and it's a really nice.
I mean, that car's a beast. I took it up a mountain the other day as well, following my brother in his Land Rover Series 2, and without 4-wheel drive, I was crawling up rocks, and the traction on that car is superb.
Very nice handling and
low range gearbox that still does the low range, although it doesn't engage the front wheel drive along with the rear wheel drive, but it's still just with its rear wheel drive, it does its thing.
So great value for money, overall package, not heavy on fuel. It's just great. So then I decided, driving to Cape Town quite often for business and so on, I'm going to buy myself a nice car now. So I started scoping my next BMW. And I thought, I need something. I don't want to. There were some nice BMWs for sale for a decent price, but they like 333s and Z4s and
but
things.
Small for.
The point is, the fuel consumption is twice of what I was looking at. You're looking about 15 to 20 liters per 100 kilometer.
It's like,
and then if you have any maintenance that needs to be done, it costs an arm and a leg. I thought, no, you know what? I want something that's nice to drive.
But you looked at a 520D as well.
And then I went and I drove a 520D, and I thought, this is just perfect. It's got enough power to drive when you want to drive fast, but otherwise, if you just cruise, it uses next to no fuel. That's going to be nice. So I thought I was going to buy a 520. I was just looking for the right 520 diesel. I was looking at a 2014 model, and I'd already driven twice a test or a prospective buy.
Mm-hmm.
And then someone came and said, I'm selling my car, Roland. So are you interested? I said, are you serious? And it was a Disco 4. And he said to me, yeah. And I said, how much? And he gave me a price. And I thought, oi, this is really good. And that's what I'm driving now.
2013 Discovery 4.
Is it 2013? Sorry.
Yeah, 2014, 2013. I don't know which one it is, but it's nonetheless.
And it's the STV and STV6,
Mm-hmm.
and it's perfect. It's wonderful. And I'd say it's even better than the BMW, simply because the BMW is great on the road, but it's not so great off-road.
It's true. That's true.
And the Disco is great on the road, is great off the road, is great when there's no road. It's just great everywhere. You just sit
around,
in it and enjoy it as well.
Describing it as having a land yacht on 4x4 wheels, basically, and just driving around, being capable of doing anything with all the little quirks and features that the car has. And I remember you told me as well when I was away for a bit, you and Mom went on this little adventure with the Discovery just for a day. I think it was in Franschhoek, or where you went 4x4ing for a bit as well.
We just drove. We actually went and collected something. We went and got olives from a farm that we bought.
Okay.
And we got there and we saw, the road actually carries on here. So we carried on and we carried on and we carried on. And we ended up in a nature reserve. And the gates were all open. So we just drove. And we drove up the mountain and down the mountain, through rivers,
all
sections.
While
after
sitting in leather interior luxury,
all the way. We drove through a piece of river that was literally, the water was running this deep and everything was washed out, and you just drive through it as if it's a road.
See, guys, buy Discoveries. They are great value for cars. So. It's and if you can think through all these cars that you've had now, and the car crashes and everything, and the hitchhiking and everything that's been relevant in your life with regards to cars, is there one thing that stands out as the best driving experience? Let's say the Cortina Bakkie. Which one did you say you drove? Over 200 km an hour.
Oh, the El Camino.
El Camino. Would you say that was the best driving experience, or is there something else?
No, actually, there's something that I haven't spoken about at all. I actually hiked up to Bloemfontein once, and I went to the truck stop in Worcester, and I chatted up the guys, and I said, "Who's willing to give me a lift to Bloemfontein?" And this one guy said, "Yep, he'll give me a lift." And it was a brand new international truck that he was the owner of the company, and he was driving this new truck with a load of 30 tons of steel on the back or something, and driving this thing up to Bloemfontein. I wasn't driving, I was just sitting with him, but that was the most awesome experience. It was it was everything that I'd wanted to do many years before. And you're just cruising along, and you can get up, you can walk around in the
interior of the truck.
And you've had these seats that are individually, that was the latest state of the art truck. You had, these seats were soft, and they
air cushioned
riding. So
sublime. It was just bliss,
and the best thing is, this guy puts it on automatic, and then he gets up. He just holds the wheel like that, and he goes and gets something. He says, "Just hold the wheel for me,"
and then he does his thing, and
the truck just goes up the mountain,
doesn't stop.
Down the mountain, just goes.
Yeah.
Up Hex River Pass. He says to me, "Look out the back window," and he says, "that whole exhaust system at the back, everything's red hot. It is, and then those big fans come on and they cool it down." But that was just an amazing experience. So yeah, a car, the nicest ride in a car.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be the car. If the truck was the
truck.
Lego. Sorry, the camera's on a tripod standing here, and the dog wanted to jump on that now, and that would have not been great, because then you would have seen a crashing example of how a camera falls down. So there we go. Sorted.
So I think the nicest experience driving in a car was probably I won't. It's difficult for me to say the nicest experience.
Yeah.
I always enjoy driving. And I think the most memorable experience in a car was probably when we took the little Conquest on a countrywide tour up to
I remember you went to
all the way
Park.
down, and we took all the back roads. And the little Conquest just took all the gravel roads, everything in its stride, no problem. The car was loaded, fully loaded, and it was a very memorable trip. So, I think people that diss small cars, they make a mistake.
Stay away from this house.
It's great. I mean, it would have been just as great a trip in the Discovery. Probably better still. But it was a great experience. Yeah, it was very memorable, and I think the fact that you knew that if you get in the car and you turn the key, it will run.
Yes.
There's no problem. I think the reliability of a car makes a big deal. If you always wonder when you get in your car, is it actually going to start?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you know you have that...
Oh, it's too hot today, and it falls over or something.
Certainty. You have the certainty of knowing that this car...
blowing and you have the wrong tires and whoops, your car falls over. I'm not going to mention models or anything. So.
We'll refrain from doing that and dissing some other companies.
So I'm not I won't say I'm a car aficionado. I would just say
you enjoy driving.
I enjoy driving, and as long as I don't have to smell fuel all the way.
As long as the car suits your needs and all those.
There's no oil running behind me on the road.
Exactly.
And all that kind of stuff. I'm happy.
Yeah.
If it does a job, if like I said, if it's a nice tool, it's great to use. If it's not so nice,
practical man.
Yeah.
If the car does the job that you need it to do, then it's fine.
Yeah. Then I'm happy.
Great stuff. But Dad, thank you very much for featuring on this episode. Thank you guys for watching again. Appreciate it so much. You guys can check us out on YouTube at On The Overrun, and on Instagram as well, and there you'll find the link to where we post the podcast everywhere, and you can see our beautiful faces on the YouTube channel. If you would like to, you don't have to, you can just sit and listen it to in your car if you have a practical car for driving to work every now and again.
Exactly.
Then you can listen to it on the radio there. But guys, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you for the next episode. Cheers, guys.